As winter sets in, temperatures in these areas drop to sub-zero levels. Hello there, you are watching Inside South Asia with me, Dasuni Athauda, and let's take a look at what we have in store for you this week. Our top story this week, Afghanistan's Minister for Refugees, Khalil Haqqani, was assassinated following a suicide bomb attack in Kabul. According to reporters, the attacker disguised himself as a refugee and entered the building with the pretense of looking for his papers. After Haqqani attended a mosque, he was then seen entering the corridor in which the bomb was detonated that resulted in the blast. Terror group the Islamic State has claimed responsibility for the attack. Here is the picture of the suicide bomber. This is the moment when he enters the Ministry of Refugee building. He can be seen with a bandaged hand. Khalil Haqqani is the brother of Jalaluddin Haqqani, the founder of the Haqqani network. He is also the uncle of Sirajuddin Haqqani, the Taliban interior minister, and violence has waned in Afghanistan since the Taliban forces took in 2021, ending their war against the US and NATO-led forces. The regional chapter of Islamic State, known as Islamic State Khorasan, is active in Afghanistan and has regularly targeted civilians, foreigners, and Taliban officials with gun and bomb attacks. Afghanistan has in the recent past come under terror attacks. In September this year, at least 6 people were killed and over a dozen wounded in an explosion in southern Kabul. Kabul police said a person wearing explosives on his body carried out the suicide attack. In April 2024, 1 person was killed and 3 others wounded by an explosion in Kabul. ISIS claimed responsibility on its Telegram channel, saying a minibus carrying Hazaras was blown up as it passed through a Taliban checkpoint. Multiple people were killed in March when an ISIS suicide bomber targeted a bank as people were gathering to collect their salaries. Authorities put the blast's total at 3. In January this year, a bomb blast ripped through a minibus in Afghanistan's capital, Kabul, killing at least 2 civilians and wounding 14 others. ISK has claimed credit for almost all attacks. Afghanistan's Taliban has fired off on a new misogynist and regressive diktat, this time banning girls from receiving medical education. This means no nurses and no midwives. This has major repercussions in the country.
Another bedrock of women power, a symbol of the important role they play in society, falls by the wayside. The Hayat Balkh Institute of Health Science in Kabul used to pride itself in being the last bastion for female vocational education. Its doors too are shut now. No university education, now no medical education either for women. This one came, curiously enough, via an unwritten order, more of a verbal threat passed down from the administration. Shut shop or else.
I was in the 8th semester of medical studies. We were banned from medical school, so we were hoping to get a midwifery degree and serve our country that way. Now that the schools are closed, all our hopes are gone.
The repercussions are huge. Afghan Health Ministry sources say 35,000 women studied at 10 public and more than 150 private paramedic institutes. Nursing, midwifery, dentistry, lab work was taught here. The death knell for the institutes means the futures of these girls thrown into the abyss too. And it extends way beyond them alone. to the face of all healthcare for women in Afghanistan.
The need for female doctors in Afghanistan is 100% greater than the rest of the world. In our remote villages, there are no female doctors. Our sisters and mothers are faced with many problems. They have miscarriages. It takes a long time to be transferred to hospitals or public hospitals. If we got our degrees, we would be able to reduce the mortality rate of mothers and babies.
The United Nations has stepped in too, pointing out that besides being a gross violation of human rights, the decree is also a grave setback for Afghanistan's development with dangerous long-term consequences. Afghanistan, that has one of the highest infant and mortality rates in the world, is listed as one of the most dangerous places on earth to give birth. The World Bank says 620 women die per 100,000 live births due to pregnancy-related causes, the highest globally. The World Health Organization says 24 women die every day during childbirth or pregnancy.
The measure is profoundly discriminatory, short-sighted, and it puts the lives of women and girls at risk. It will decimate the already inadequate supply of female midwives, nurses, and doctors in Afghanistan. Male medical staff are prohibited from treating women unless a male relative is present, and Afghanistan already has one of the highest rates of maternal mortality in the world. Women's presence in the healthcare sector is crucial.
The UN and other NGOs have urged the Taliban to repeal the directive. This one adds to the Taliban going back on a host of its promises which were made after the takeover of Afghanistan to respect rights of women. Instead, things have gone rapidly downhill. Girls barred from secondary education, women barred from higher education and jobs, and now this. Soon, they say the Taliban will take away their right to breathe as well.
Perhaps the biggest shift in equation after Bangladesh's upheaval is Bangladesh's bonhomie with Pakistan. Bangladesh has now lifted visa restrictions on Pakistanis, and this close connection between the two nations is a sure-shot security concern for India. Here's more.
The meeting that signalled and perhaps marked the turnaround on the 4th of December. Pakistan's ambassador to Dhaka had called on Bangladesh Nationalist Party chief Begum Khalid Zia. Things were headed in a new trajectory, where old wounds Pakistan inflicted on Bangladesh could be glossed over. Throwback to 2007. Soon after Begum Khalid Zia lost power, big restrictions had been put in place in Bangladesh vis-a-vis Pakistan that took full shape in years to come. The move was rooted in the Bangladesh War of 1971. No Pakistani cargo ship could enter Bangladeshi waters without intense checks. On the visa front, Pakistani applications at any mission abroad had to be referred to the Interior Ministry in Bangladesh for verification and clearance. There were big restrictions on trade with and tourism from Pakistan. Under Muhammad Yunus, all that becomes a thing of the past. There's an executive order removing the need for physical inspection of cargo. A Pakistani cargo ship docked in Chittagong last week, the first since 1971. Earlier restrictions on issuance of visas goes too. Former Indian officials who served in Bangladesh point out that perhaps the most direct impact of the move are security concerns for India.
there is a cause for worry in this, and I can immediately recall that during the time I was High Commissioner of India in Bangladesh, that was 2003-2006, that was when the Prime Minister was Begum Khalida Zia. And there was at that time, at least on the visas, these restrictions were not there. And there was a completely free access between Bangladesh and Pakistan at that time. Under this, we really had a lot of problem on the security front because we found that people were coming from Pakistan to Bangladesh, sometimes even without their passport being stamped, and they were entering, and then they could just walk across the porous border into India. And every terrorist attack in India in those years had a Bangladeshi footprint. So you always had some link back to Bangladesh. Either the people came from there, or you could always find some things they had bought in Bangladesh and were carrying with them while they were in. It was a very difficult problem. So for security purposes, for India, it'll be very difficult now. We'll have to be very careful, double check on that, and even double check on the documents being carried by the people coming from Bangladesh to India, especially if they're from Pakistan, but even otherwise.
Experts have frequently pointed out what they see as a big Pakistan influence that has led to anti-India winds blowing in Bangladesh. A series of attacks on minorities in Bangladesh have been put down to a systematic ethnic cleansing and genocide of the kind attempted by Pakistan. India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri was in Dhaka earlier this week looking to mend fences as ties between the two countries hit their most fragile ever. He held meetings with the Bangladeshi leadership. Talks were described as frank, candid, and constructive.
We also had the opportunity to discuss certain recent developments and issues, and I conveyed our concerns, including those related to the safety and welfare of minorities. We also discussed some regrettable incidents of attacks on cultural, religious, and diplomatic properties. We expect overall a constructive approach on all these issues by the Bangladesh authorities, and we look forward to moving the relationship forward in a positive, forward-looking, and constructive direction.
Public sentiment in Bangladesh continues a pro-India push. But the regime there not overtly but covertly pushes a pro-Pakistan agenda. Power dynamics look to settle in on the new rails that have taken over. Fears have been voiced. The bigger impact ahead throws up a worrisome picture.
Up next, we tell you a tragic story from Pakistan. An African elephant who was recently reunited with her sister has tragically died at a Karachi zoo. This has once again reignited concern as to the conditions these animals face living in Karachi zoos. But what exactly happened? Here's the story.
An elephant named Sonia passed away on the 8th of December at a safari park in Karachi, Pakistan. According to officials, the pachyderm died due to heart failure. Her death comes just days after she was reunited with her sister, Madhubala, marking a bittersweet end to their story. A post-mortem will be conducted, with results expected in the coming days. A committee has been formed to investigate her death.
Sonia, who died in the morning, was 18-19 years old. What we know so far, and doctors have verified, is that she had heart failure. They are going to conduct a post-mortem examination.
Sonia, nearly 19 years old, was the second elephant to die in Karachi within 2 years. She had been living at the safari park since 2009. Alongside her sister Malika. Both were among 4 young elephant sisters captured in the wild and brought to Pakistan that year, following the death of another sister, Noor Jahan, in April 2023. Madhubala was transferred from ill-maintained Karachi Zoo to the safari park last month to join Sonia and Malika, reuniting the surviving trio after 15 years of separation.
I received a call at around 6 a.m. from one of our elephant trainers who said that Sonia is not standing on her feet. So I called the zoologist, Dr. Amir. We came here at around 6:30 a.m. and after a checkup by Dr. Amir Ismail, he declared her dead. When I asked him about the reason, he told me that it was a sudden death, like a heart attack.
10 days before her death, Sonia had reportedly been in good health, according to a recent checkup by the Australian animal welfare organisation 4PAWS, which visited her in late November. The organisation has been actively involved in improving conditions for Pakistan's captive elephants, often criticizing the mistreatment they face. Pakistan has a troubled history with elephants in captivity. Noor Jahan, 17, died earlier this year after a critical medical procedure by international veterinarians. Her death prompted calls to relocate Madhubala to the safari park, which activists argue provides better living conditions than Karachi Zoo. Sonia's death underscores the ongoing challenges and urgency in improving animal welfare across the country. Sonia's passing echoes the plight of Kavan, famously dubbed the world's loneliest elephant, who was transferred from a Pakistani zoo to a Cambodian sanctuary in 2020 after years of isolation. His rescue, supported by global activists and singer Cheer, brought international attention to the conditions of captive elephants in Pakistan, perhaps saving that elephant from also perishing due to a broken heart.
It's been 100 years of Raj Kapoor, aka the greatest showman of Indian cinema. And to celebrate his birth centenary, the Kapoor family met with Prime Minister Narendra Modi to celebrate his life's achievements. Take a look at all of this while I join you again next week. For the WION team, I'm Dasuni Athauda signing off.
राज कपूर साहब ने दुनिया में भारत के सॉफ्ट पावर की ताकत को एस्टैब्लिश कर दी।
इतने कीमती वक्त में आपने सबको आज यहाँ निमंत्रित किया राज कपूर के बर्थडे 100वीं बर्थडे पे अवसर पे हम आपका शुक्रिया अदा करते हैं।
और राज साहब का 100वां जन्मदिन यानी हिंदुस्तान की फिल्म इंडस्ट्री की स्वर्णिम यात्रा का वो कालखंड है।